What's going on, everyone? It's Nick, and before we begin, please remember to like. And if you love sports, this is definitely the place for you. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, as I cover basketball, baseball, and football on here. And also, please be sure to hit the notification bell. Now, as you can see from the title, we're here to talk about this weird NBA season, a season that's been totally unpredictable. Could you have guessed at almost the midway point in the season that the New York Knicks would be over 500 and have the fourth seed in the Eastern Conference? Would you have guessed that they'd have a better record than the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics at this point in the season? The Heat are starting to get it together, though. I will talk about that later on, but man, the New York Knicks, what a surprise they have been. Or how about the San Antonio Spurs? The Spurs are the fifth seed in the West right now. And we expected the Suns to be good, but I don't know if most people, I certainly didn't expect this, for them to be the fourth seed in the West right now, or the Mavericks to just be a 500 team right now, or the Nuggets. Well, I did expect them to take a step back after losing Jeremy Grant, but I didn't expect them to take such a big step back that they'd be the seventh seed in the West right now. Or how about the Utah Jazz having the best record in the NBA? Did anyone think that would happen? Or how about the Sixers having the best record in the East? Yes, we did expect them to be better than last year with a better fit by having shooters like Danny Green and Seth Curry and having Tobias Harris play the four. It's a much better fit, and okay, Doc Rivers does have his faults, but he's a lot better than Brett Brown, at least that. And hey, we expected them to be better, but to the point where they're the top seed in the East, yeah, I don't know about that, but here they are with the top seed in the East right now. We're going to talk about plenty of that. Play the intro. So the first surprise I want to talk about is the New York Knicks. I know you've seen this before if you've been watching my videos. That's actually the only Knicks jersey I have right now, so that's why it's the only one I ever use in my videos, and gotta say that they've been very impressive. Their defense has been great all season long, and now their offense is starting to come along because Derrick Rose gives them a real floor general. Sure, it's not prime Derrick Rose anymore, but he's really made a difference for the Knicks in a very good way. And Julius Randle, no, he hasn't come down to earth yet. And I believe in this game he had 25 points in this blowout win against the Pistons that put them over 500, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he did. He had 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. He's really stepped it up as a playmaker, as I've said before. And Kobe once described him as Lamar Odom in Zach Randolph's body. And I gotta say, that description of him is absolutely perfect. And RJ Barrett, he played really well in this game too. He scored 21 points on 8 of 13 from the field. If the Knicks stay at this pace for the rest of the season, Tom Thibodeau has to be coach of the year. And for the Pistons, yeah, it looks like their only bright spot is Jeremy Grant, right? Man, they are a mess. Although they've actually beaten some very good teams this year, including my Lakers. But yeah, I'm sure that being a Detroit Pistons fan these days is not easy. Hasn't been since the Chauncey Billups Allen Iverson trade. So now I'll just talk about the Lakers before I get on to some other surprises. Having Dennis Schroeder back has been great for the Lakers on both ends of the floor. Now, Dennis Schroeder didn't shoot very well in this game, but his presence was felt nonetheless because he takes pressure off of LeBron in terms of scoring. And on defense, this game and last game, the ball pressure he and Caruso were applying were excellent. Damian Lillard had a great stat line, but I think that the Lakers really made him work. And other than Damian Lillard and Gary Trent Jr., the other Blazers struggled. And in this game, Steph Curry had an off night, and the other Warriors, yeah, they just weren't getting the job done either. Draymond got hurt in the second quarter, though, and I hope he's okay. And I gotta say, LeBron has put in a lot better effort in these last 2 games on both ends of the floor. His weak side defense has been excellent. He's been making really good reads. And on offense, he's not coasting like he was during that slump that the Lakers had. And in this game, he only had to play 24 minutes, and that's great for the Lakers because during that skid, he was also looking tired. And for him to not have to play heavy minutes this time, that makes me really happy Just hope that the Lakers get back Anthony Davis healthy after the All-Star break. So now, let's talk about some of the other surprises besides the New York Knicks. Starting with the Utah Jazz. Now, we expected them to be a playoff team this year, but best record in the NBA? I don't think anybody expected that. Although I do still think, though, that both the Lakers and Clippers are better than the Jazz. Still, I think that what the Jazz have done is exactly why Quinn Snyder is a top 2 candidate for Coach of the Year with Tom Thibodeau. The only reason I'm leaning more towards Tom Thibodeau is because the Knicks were supposed to be arguably the worst team in the NBA, and here they are right now with the 4th seed, and they're over 500. Yeah, only by 1 game, but still. The Jazz, though, they've exceeded their expectations too. They were supposed to be around a mid-seeded team in the West, but they have the best record in the NBA right now. And they've been compared to the 2015 Atlanta Hawks. I gotta disagree with that because the Hawks didn't have a go-to guy like the Jazz do in Donovan Mitchell. The leading scorer on the Hawks in 2015 was Paul Millsap, averaging just 17 points per game. Like, they played really well as a team, but they just didn't have that go-to guy, and that's why they got swept by the Cavs in the conference finals. The Jazz, though, while I don't see them beating the Lakers or Clippers in the playoffs, well, there is a Clipper curse, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Lakers fan. Like, Clippers fans, if you've been a Clippers fan long enough, you know, like, especially someone like the guy who runs Dime Dropper podcast, who I think that you should definitely tune into if you're watching this. I will leave a link to his channel in the description here. So yeah, the Clippers not making it past the second round of the playoffs, I guess shouldn't really be surprising anymore at this point, especially after last year. But still, I would say though that the Clippers are a better team, at least on paper, than the Jazz. Well, I said the same thing about the Nuggets compared to the Clippers last year. I think most of us did, and look what happened. And the Clippers this year, much like last year, even though they are a better team this year, they still have a problem with closing out games. It does start with their star players. Even though Tyronn Lue has done much better than Doc Rivers with holding guys accountable, still, they tend to rely on too many tough contested shots, and it has been costly for them late in games even this year too. And it happened against the Bucks again. They only scored 19 fourth quarter points as a team. But anyways, back to the Jazz. The fact that the Jazz are actually this good right now, I mean, who would have thought, right? And I did see Jordan Clarkson drop Michael Carter-Williams yesterday. And if you have anyone else winning Sixth Man of the Year this year, I'm sorry to say it, but you're just wrong. There's no way it's not Jordan Clarkson. And I personally am really happy for him because I've been following him since he was a rookie, obviously, and to see him make these strides in his game and to be the clear-cut frontrunner for the Sixth Man of the Year award, I'm happy for him. Although I also feel like Rudy Gobert's drop coverage, like it always does in the playoffs, is gonna get exposed again. Or I don't know if exposed is the right word because it's something that we already know about at this point, and I would look at it as exposed as more of, we didn't know this before, but oh, now it's on full display. So whatever the right word is for Rudy Gobert's drop coverage in the playoffs, or the fact that he cannot extend out to the perimeter, you can let me know in the comments. But still, I gotta give them their due credit. They're shooting absolutely lights out. They've made the most threes this year, but percentage-wise, they're third. And they're the third best defense and second best offense so far in the regular season. But something I just found out that I'm very surprised by is the fact that they're only 20th in assists this year as a team. Because when I watch them play, their ball movement is absolutely beautiful. It is poetry in motion. I don't know how they're only 20th in assists. Another weakness of theirs actually is the fact that they're not a very good free throw shooting team. They are 18th in free throw percentage, although the Lakers aren't a very good free throw shooting team either, and they weren't last year, and it didn't matter to the Lakers in the end. And as long as Anthony Davis is healthy for the playoffs, I don't expect it to matter in the end for them either this year. So, another surprise? This one doesn't get talked about enough. The San Antonio Spurs, they are the 5th seed in the West. Most people, including myself, did not think that they'd make the playoffs, but as of now, they are the 5th seed in the Western Conference, and if they were in the East, they would be the 4th seed in front of the Knicks. And DeMar DeRozan, you could definitely say was snubbed from the All-Star game. I really wanted to put him in as a reserve, but there just weren't enough spots. So that's why I said it before, and I'm going to say it again, that I think all-star rosters should be expanded, because DeMar DeRozan, while he's definitely deserving this year, just not more deserving than the guys who made it instead of him. And he's also stepped it up as a playmaker this year too. And you know who else has really stepped it up? DeJounte Murray, and I think that he should be in the running for most improved player. I don't think he's going to win it, but I do think he should be in the running for it. And also another guy who's really stepped up his game this year, but he hasn't played in a couple of weeks because of health and safety protocols. But when he has played, he's well exceeded what he did last year. And right now, on the season, he's averaging 14.5 points per game. On okay efficiency, Keldon Johnson. Did anyone have real expectations for him this year? So, gotta give it to him. He's definitely doing some pretty good things this year. So yeah, the Spurs being the 5th seed in the West, that's quite a surprise that I think should be talked about a lot more than it actually is. And speaking of most improved player, I don't think this guy's actually going to win it, but I do think he's a dark horse contender. Scary Terry Rozier. Not going to lie, when the Hornets signed him to that big contract, I thought that they were crazy. And here's a moment where I'm going to admit I was wrong, because he's been balling out for the Hornets this year. And now the Mavericks, just 16-16, and they're the 9th seed in the West right now. They're 7-3 in their last 10 though. But they were supposed to be a much improved team from last year, because they were the best offense ever last year. But defense is what held them back, and they got Josh Richardson and James Johnson to improve on defense. But they're the 24th ranked defense this season. Last year the Mavs were 18th in defensive rating, so this year they're actually even worse defensively. And Porzingis, you know, I'm guilty of this too. We had superstar expectations of him when he started to show that he was a lot better than what we expected when he got drafted, when he was a rookie, and he was putting on a show. Only didn't win Rookie of the Year because of Karl Anthony Towns. So, you know, I'll admit I haven't really watched many Mavericks games, but anyone who has, you can tell me what you think. But yeah, that's quite a surprise this season to see that the Mavericks are only a 500 team at this point in the season. And also the Washington Wizards, they're still only 13-19. However, they are 7-3 in their last 10. But this game against the Celtics, where Jaylen Brown was out because of left knee soreness, but we'll just call it what it really is: load management. And Jason Tatum had a bounce back game, and he hit his 3rd game winner of the season. And hey, the Boston Celtics, they're only a 500 team as of now. They fell below 500 earlier this week before getting back to 500 against the Wizards. Yeah, that's another big surprise, right? And Marcus Smart being out for as many games as he has really affected them, and it does feel like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker can't all have a good game in the same game, because if they were able to have a good game in the same game more often, the Celtics should be a lot better than they are. And Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker both played well in this game, and Kemba has started to play a lot better as of late, but this game, no Jaylen Brown, and I gotta say that was some really poor late game execution by the Wizards, which makes me say I still think Scott Brooks needs to go. And the last play of the game, or actually before that, when Bradley Beal caught an inbound pass, and then he slipped and fell out of bounds, which led to Jason Tatum's game winner. But the fact that no one on the Wizards came to help Beal as he was getting doubled, like, really? That's how they're executing when they're getting pressed like that? Which was kind of like them getting a taste of their own medicine for how they won against the Nets, right? And then the last play. The Celtics knew what was going to happen before it happened. Doubled Bradley Beal. Although I feel like Bradley Beal could have made a move faster and avoided the double team. But still, I don't think it was a very well run play, because it's a play that the Wizards run way too often. You know, got to change it up sometimes. Now we got the Miami Heat, who, as we know, made an improbable run to the finals last year, but this year, it looked like they weren't really picking up from where they left off last year. And truthfully, it was because they just didn't have their full squad all season. But hey, they actually beat the Atlanta Hawks without Jimmy Butler. What's going on with the Hawks? We all thought that the Hawks would be a low-seeded playoff team this year, or at least I thought so. You know, Trae Young's a great player, but it's looking like he can't lead. And I was thinking that Rondo would take him under his wing, but it's not looking good, man. And hey, the Toronto Raptors, we expected them to be a playoff team, but not a contender. They got off to a horrible start, but they've been better as of late. Oh yeah, about the Miami Heat though. They got a big win against the Jazz, and then they beat the Hawks without Jimmy Butler. So yeah, it looks like they're finally getting it together. And don't be surprised if they make another finals run, because I feel like the East is still pretty wide open. Yeah, the Sixers, who we're going to talk about next, but before I do, there are some glaring weaknesses for the Sixers, even though they have an undefeated record with their full squad. And with the Nets, yeah, they have their big three, but if one or two of them goes missing, then they're kind of screwed because they don't really have a lot of depth. And against the Nets, yeah, if Joel Embiid is not feasting against them, then I don't know what's wrong, because there's no one on the Nets that could possibly guard Joel Embiid. And yeah, the Nets have their big three, but Ben Simmons can guard any of them, and Danny Green's a good defender. Of course, at least one of them is going to get their buckets, but the Sixers also have good defenders on their team that could hold their own against those guys. I'm going to lean more towards the Sixers in that matchup, solely because the Nets have no one that can even contain Joel Embiid, but I feel like that's a series that could go either way. And now about the Sixers. Now, something I've actually noticed about the Sixers, even though their record looks impressive, Joel Embiid has been playing at an MVP level. He had those 3 games in a row where he played poorly, but he bounced back against the Cavs in a loss. But you know what else about the Sixers though? Despite having the best record in the East and being undefeated when they have their full squad, is that only 3 of their wins, which were against the Lakers, then there was also that win against the Nets without Kevin Durant, and also they won big against the Knicks earlier in the year. Those were their only wins against above 500 teams. Other than that, they've been feasting on teams that are okay to bad. And hey, Doc Rivers has absolutely been an upgrade over Brett Brown. There's no denying that. However, we know that he's a coach that does have his faults, and I would no longer be surprised when those faults come back to haunt his team, because, like, how could you anymore at this point after what happened last year? So I'll say this. I do think that the Sixers have a real shot at making it to the finals, and they certainly are a better team than they were last year because the fit is so much better. However, they're definitely not getting any further than just making it to the finals. There's no way they're going to beat the Lakers, Jazz, or Clippers. Whoever makes it out of the West, I just don't think there's any way they lose in the finals. So, another surprise that's happening this year. Also, the fact that James Harden is only averaging just under 25 points per game, that's not something that we're used to, right? And we all thought that the Nets might have some chemistry problems. Early on, that was correct, but as of late, aside from losing bad to the Mavericks, well, they were without both KD and Kyrie, they've been playing well, and they've actually been much better on defense. And hey, their perimeter defense has been great lately because their switch everything philosophy has worked really well. It's just that their interior defense, that's what I'd still be scared of if I'm a Nets fan. But hey, if the Nets fix that, then it's championship or bust for them. For sure. So that's just what I wanted to talk about, because it sure has been a strange season, hasn't it? To see the Knicks as a 4th seed and having a better record than the Raptors, Celtics, and Heat this year. The Spurs as a 5th seed in the West. Mavericks not even in the playoff picture right now, just as a play-in team. And we all thought that Luka would be the MVP this year, or I thought so, and I know most people thought so as well, but nope, not even close. And oh my God, Joel Embiid. We all knew that he's a great player, but I completely forgot to talk about the fact that Joel Embiid is having an MVP caliber season. That's not something that we anticipated at all, right? Well, okay, I did mention it, but I just didn't go really in depth about how none of us expected him to be in the MVP conversation, really. But yeah, it's looking like Joel Embiid has a very good chance to win the MVP this season as long as he's healthy. We all thought it'd come down to Luka or LeBron, and I was leaning towards Luka like most people. So yeah, I think that I covered just about all the surprises. If there's anything that you're very surprised about in this weird NBA season, you can let me know in the comments. But that's the end of this video. Please remember to like, and if you still haven't subscribed yet and you made it this far in the video, I don't know what you're doing, but please subscribe and hit the notification bell. I will see you next time.